Hello everyone. This is a long overdue video, 2 years in the making. We're finally sitting down. Christmas is coming, so things are starting to stop somewhat.
It's a loose term, stop somewhat.
Yeah. So this is going to be a really casual format chat about myself and Ben and Mark, who we'll introduce shortly. Where has four-wheel drive come from? Why does it even exist? Who's behind the product? What we think, what we do, why we do. As I said, an informal chat. It might make for easier listening when you're driving somewhere, or
I think we realised as well, like recently we've done a lot more, like the big trip over to the East Coast for Marimbula Classic, and met so many more people who've used four-wheel drives and are just frothing over it, but didn't know the background of Paul and I, and people like yourself and the whole team. We still get asked all the time, is this a full-time gig for you guys? Like, so we really want to fill in that gap of just the background knowledge of four-wheel drive, who we are, where it all came from, and especially because so many four-wheel drive guys are overseas, guys and girls are overseas, and you know, the world's a big place, and there's people scattered everywhere now, which is so cool. So this is a bit of a,
and I think we've had people asking us to do this quite a bit, because we do know a lot of customers reasonably personally now, and they've always said, you need to talk about what you do, who you are. It's an unusual setup. People want to know. So here we are. Let's just kick it off, keep it fun and simple. So if anyone doesn't know, I'm Paul Martin, co-owner of Four-Wheel Drive.
Ben Jamison, co-owner of Four-Wheel Drive. And we're sitting with Mark, Sykesy.
Oh, Sykesy, yeah. Who's been the first owner of the Four-Wheel Drive, really.
Serial number one.
Serial number one. And, you know, some of the things that have always intrigued me about, you know, the product is that initially, why did you come up with the concept? Like, did you do some surfboard designs, or what was going on? Why did you come up with the actual four-wheel drive concept? It's a brilliant concept, and as you know, I've been having so much fun with it, and it's just changed my foiling experience and downwinding experience particularly.
Well, I mean, good first question, and I think it's very pertinent to what we're talking about. Four-wheel drive ironically exists because of mountain biking.
Pretty much.
And when many people have asked me this story, it's like, what has this got to do with mountain biking? The reason four-wheel drive exists is, unfortunately for me, but fortunately for a lot of people around the world, I had a lot of mountain bike accidents where I ruined my shoulders, which in doing so led me to really suffering with my surfing, because I used to surf all the time. And I would get out in the water and I'd fatigue within 10-15 minutes because my ligaments and stuff in my shoulder are just shot. And then by that happening, I started developing and making my own electric powered surfboards, because I was sick and tired of not being able to catch waves and being disheartened and just really quite grumpy every session. I just couldn't catch waves. And I think I tinkered on electric surfboards for nearly 15 years.
Wow, okay.
And I made, I don't know why it's 15 years, but I made 15 electric surfboards in that time. And that's where I really started to look at water sports differently, because I had a need to electrify what I was on to continue to enjoy the sport. So in the real basic essence, where has four-wheel drive come from? It was caused by mountain bikes, started with surfboards, and then the reason it ended up with foils is I spent 15 years destroying batteries and electronics and stuff, trying to make a surfboard work, and eventually figured it all out and got it all to work, made many successful units.
But also trying to make a surfboard, electric surfboard, still feel like a surfboard.
Exactly.
Too. Like, that was the hardest.
And that's the reason to this
hurdle.
Yeah, and that's the reason to this day, despite many people pleading with me on the beach to make them what they saw me riding around on, literally pleading with me.
Because you tried everything too, like you did, well, at least what I've seen in the last 8-9 years, something like that I've known you, is the like jet ski style
Twin jet units.
jet units,
Single jet
external
units.
props, drive shafts through boards, external motors with props, like
Yeah.
so many different designs,
Yep.
all trying to get a surfboard, electric surfboard that has batteries in the board and a motor somewhere and a propeller somewhere or a thrust system.
Yep.
Trying to make that feel like a surfboard still.
That was the tricky bit.
The hurdle that is so hard to do.
That was the tricky bit, and that's the reason why I never pursued it, despite going down certain patents and bits and pieces like that. You're right. I did eventually make something and have designed something, and that is a later problem. But for
Come
me,
on, let us know.
But then you got foil brained anyway. So it's like once you're foil brained, you just.
But I think the crucial end of that point is, despite making what I did, I could never truly get the feeling, the true feeling of just purist surfing whilst having it electrified.
Yeah.
I got pretty damn close to it being acceptable enough. And I have pretty high standards when it comes to not ruining the truest sense of the sport. Because you can make anything powerful, fast, run a long time, do it. But that's easy. But trying to preserve the purest feeling of the essence of the sport whilst making it electrified.
Yeah.
But then that is the hard part. And that's very few people have ever achieved that in a lot of sports because it is hard.
Well, going back to the mountain biking, it's only in the last few years that they're starting to come from e-bikes, bringing that weight down, bringing the power down, trying to get closer back to.
Yeah.
Just
'cause,
right.
Again, my background being mountain biking as well, which is ironic that it's you know, we've ended up in the sport we are. That I grew up mountain biking, and even when Paul was first getting electric mountain bikes, I was like, you're not getting me to ride an electric mountain bike, no way. But now I start to see the benefit of it because the mountain bike industry has started to really reel back the weight and the power and all that kind of stuff.
Size and everything else.
Because they know that people who really like the purest feel of mountain biking don't like heavy, super powerful, super long run times, but it's almost feels like a different sport in a way, and then they need different trails and they need...
And it's not for everyone too.
Everyone's got to ride an e-bike if you're going to do it and all that kind of stuff.
So that was that, and then someone introduced me into foiling.
And when was that? Like, is that...
That's probably...
That was your brother-in-law?
Yeah,
Yeah.
3 years ago now.
Oh, okay.
Roughly.
Oh,
Maybe not quite that long, but because foil drive's only been around for, at this point in this filming, 2 years, 3 months, something like that.
Yeah.
So as soon as I started foiling, I was like, okay,
Click.
this is something
you
I
knew
wanna
there
do.
was going to be a connection
There's
there.
a rewiring going on.
My first introduction to foiling was behind a jet ski, and it was a nightmare, but I got the bug, and then the same problem reared its head.
Getting up with a paddle.
I couldn't do it.
Yeah, okay.
And I was fortunate to be able to learn to foil behind some pretty big boats that put out like metre tall wakes.
Yep.
So I got the bug of foiling a wave on a free foil. But then when I tried to go into the ocean and then and catch waves, I was like, this is even worse than my surfing. I just can't catch this, but I have this burning desire to do it now.
Yeah.
And that's what prompted me to start tinkering once again, trying to electrify my foil gear and make the sport, for me, obtainable. Not just fun, obtainable. And that was the genesis of it. And then the reason it turned into a product is I worked out there was a Goldilocks moment where I worked out, wait a minute, I can do what I need to do, which is electrify and add power to alleviate the paddling issue. But there's this Goldilocks scenario where I can then actually have the motor and all that stuff disappear.
Yeah.
And I can just free foil and not have any of that stuff.
Instead of e-foiling.
And that was when I was like, Ben,
We've got to do
I
something
think we
about
should
this.
make this.
Yeah, because you made a full-blown comparable e-foil to what's available on the market.
True.
It was heaps lighter, just as powerful, heaps lighter though.
Yeah,
And
true.
tried to take that in the surf. I remember, because this is before I'd even tried foiling, and you're like, this foiling stuff, because we're into model aeroplanes and stuff like that as well. So foiling, at least for me, foiling is kind of just like flying in the ocean and you're actually doing it yourself rather than flying an RC plane or whatever. So it's like, and I remember you coming home on a weekend or something or other, and it was like, yeah, I was in the surf and with this big heavy e-foil, and it's just mayhem. Like, it's just too big and heavy. I've got to make something lighter, and then that whole Goldilocks of
And I think that's a good point.
enough power to get you going, but then it all goes away. Like, that's what we're trying to achieve, is
Our background
replace
is,
yeah.
and I think the reason I could think like that is to add some more information to this whole video. Is my background was originally a helicopter pilot. Did that when I was 19 and 20, and then I started a drone company.
Well before drone was.
So you had good knowledge of electronics. I mean, because that's the thing that has always intrigued me is that, you know, I know it seems like a simple concept and a simple package, but there's a lot of work that's gone into that to make that work properly and, you know, function even now, even if you get a bit of water in there, and all of these problems that you would have come across. So where was the basic electronics sort of, you know, education?
It did stem from, so my first company was a drone company, and it was the first one ever commercially certified in Australia. So it was
in the service industry.
In the service industry, power lines and oil and gas facilities and that sort of stuff.
Yeah.
But
started as real estate.
Don't even go down that path. It ended up But
that's 15 years ago now. So this is well before drones were a thing. Like,
Right.
I think you went to CASA, with being Australia's like civil aviation authority, and was like, I want to fly this to take photos for houses or power lines, whatever. Like, what the heck is that?
I had no idea.
Yeah.
But that's when I met Ben. He came to work for me, and without going into
Pestered the crap out of him until I worked for him.
Good decision.
But yeah, we spent a lot of time in a very technical industry dealing with, I think by the end of it, you know, drones that are valued at nearly $250,000, $300,000 in the air.
Okay. Not the little ones you fly around.
And
Count logs.
but they had
package.
they relied on very, very high energy density batteries, extremely small yet very powerful motors. Everything's lightweight, everything's miniaturized. If it's going to be airborne, there's no shortcuts. Not if it's going to be long endurance and etc. So that is all filtered down into my obsession with trying to make something as small and as compact, as powerful as it can be, longest runtime that you can get, and anything that doesn't contribute to those attributes shouldn't belong. I think anyone and everyone who owns a four-wheel drive could sit down and put up scorecards of different elements of the system. The appearance of the box is probably not going to get the same scorecard as its output on the water.
Yeah.
And again, we'll get into this later, but it's like, we could have done all sorts of things to make it look sexier and prettier and curvy this and da-da-da. It just adds weight. It's not going to improve performance, and it's going to detract from ride time, swing weight, all this sort of stuff. So we just didn't do it. And I think, and coming back to the original question, it's really a lot of high-end electronics and drones, and we do a lot of RC gear stuff. Not little toy planes, like
Proper,
big, serious gas turbine jet aircraft, and so basically nerds.
I was going to say,
Just call it what it is.
tinkering in the shed just until the wee hours of the morning, trying to make something do what you want it to do. Or
But I did make two of my own big, powerful 5,000 watt e-foils that could do 50 kilometres an hour. And I mean, they're fine. There's companies out there that make them, and then good for them. There's a big enough market for that, and great. But it dawned on me, for what I wanted, I actually wanted the complete opposite. What's the smallest, lightest, most unobtrusive, nimble little thing that I can make that has a big enough impact that it makes the sport, for me, because at the time, you've got to remember, I developed it just for myself, to catch whatever wave I want, when I want, and I've had my fill, then I'll go in. That was sort of my design criteria. And that's where we ended up.
Yeah.
With the original assist, but we quickly worked out that the Assist Plus, which is again was just a tinkering and iteration and mucking around, was probably where it needed to be.
Well, it's interesting because, you know, what you're saying about what it allows you to do. When I first heard about it from a friend of mine, Travis, when I heard about it, I thought, hang on, this really sort of rings a few bells that I go, yeah, I've been wanting to downwind. I can stand up and paddle and get up onto a wave. I can barely prone. I'm not great at proning on a surfboard anyway, but I can prone on a foil and a board. And the wing board, the wing dinging has been around. I've come from a kite surfing, windsurfing background.
Yeah.
And so to have something there to help you get going, get up on the foil, made total sense to me.
Yeah.
There was nothing that in any way bothered me about that concept. I didn't like the idea of it being super heavy. And I just wanted it to go away, like you said, when I get up.
Yeah.
So I wanted to be able to experience, I've managed to paddle and occasionally get up downwinding. The amount of energy and effort that I spent trying to do that.
How many people have said that downwinding is just the hardest?
It is really difficult, but I didn't want to give up on the concept or the ability to be with some of the guys that can do it.
Yeah.
Another friend of mine, Scotty, and Travis, who can do it here locally. I went, I don't want to be left behind. I mean, I'm a little bit older than those boys, you know, being over 60, and I thought, I want to be able to do it. I've got a bad shoulder, similar to the problem you've got from motorcycle accidents and other extreme sports. So I went, you know what, anything that's going to make it easier for me to get up and actually experience what this downwinding phenomenon is about.
Yeah.
Because it's almost like that.
Because you've been foiling for years.
Oh, one of the very earliest foils was just an air chair that we put on top of a kite board and used the kites to get going and towed. And it was air chair, horrible alloy, heavy. It would be heavier than the foil drive now, probably. With the moon boots and everything, you're strapped to it.
But still got to get you to dig that out.
Oh, I will find it. It is somewhere around. It's an antique now. It's probably worth more money now than it was when we built it. No, it wouldn't be.
How long ago do you think that is, roughly?
Oh, 15, probably, maybe, 15, 14 years ago, I would say. Or maybe even a little bit longer, actually,
You were into foiling
to be fair.
real early on.
Real early. Saw Laird Hamilton do it on a DVD once and just went, oh, man.
We've heard that his tow partner's got a foil drive and loves it.
Ah, there you go.
Yeah, we've got to get him on.
I think if Laird sees it, he'll be probably keen. But it just opens up that opportunity for me now to catch waves further out as well. Now, I could paddle on with the paddle, but on a sup, but now I'm up to sometimes 300-400 metres further out from the breaking wave, which
Yelling
means
and
that
screaming
carrying on, which means your whole experience is now, I've just gone from a 200 or 150 metre ride or even less to a 350.
Yeah.
And so when you add that and that experience and that fun and that ability then to go, how many waves do I want today? Because with the foil drive, I've gone from like 6, 7 good waves to, I don't know, 50 on a really good day with 3 batteries.
And you're always messaging us like, I've been out for a Friday Arvo session, I went for a Saturday morning winging Sunday Arvo.
No doubt I'm addicted to the sport. So when that came along, it was a no-brainer to me. It was like, it opened up a whole heap of opportunities that I'm still trying to downwind without it, but I'm probably going to give up on that concept, but not completely, but I just think that it just made, I just recently did a 4 kilometre downwind obviously got up with the foil drive and went 4Ks, and it was just a moment that...
Yeah, to put that into context, it's a 10K run, but you did a 4K stretch without coming down.
Without coming down, which I didn't think was possible, and I'd almost given up on the concept. So it opens up so many possibilities for so many other, they don't have to be old like me, but anyone that wants to even try to downwind and use it as training wheels to get up and then to proceed, you know.
It's been so cool hearing about so many people that like you said, use it as training wheels, because I think the confidence and I talk a lot with James Casey about this with all his downwind courses and clinics and camps and his online course and that, like, it's if you're trying to manually paddle up, it's really hard. And then once you get up, you're gassed. And then you're so scared of coming back down that you're trying to ride far too safe and you're not making the decisions you need to make. You're still exhausted as well from getting up. But then when you do come down, A, you've got to get up again, but then B, next time you're even more scared of not making the right decisions once you're up. And once you're up, it's hard too. You've still got to read the ocean and read the waves, make the right calls, not have too much fun and run a bump too long because then you get left high and dry. It's like, once not getting up or getting stuck out to sea or anything like that is kind of just like, oh, well, that's a no-brainer. Like, with a four drive, like, our first few downwinders that we all did together, like, how many times would we have started on the motor? 40?
Yeah.
The first run. It's like, if
Yeah.
it takes that scaredness away and then you can just focus on, right, I screwed up and I did this because I should have gone left, or I don't know what the hell happened, but let's have another go. That helps you progress so much faster too. So like your 4K run in one hit, it's a hypothetical question, but I wonder how long it would have taken you to get to that point if you didn't have the ability to just go, well,
I
I'm
don't
up
know.
now, let's go. You know?
I may have given up though, and
Yeah.
that was where I was heading. So now it's actually reinvigorated that spark of maybe I can do this.
Yeah.
So it's given me the possibility, and now with
And
the right
going-
equipment.
Going with Trav and Scotty and that too,
Yeah.
and all those guys without motors.
Totally.
It's like you're keeping up, you're still out there.
Well, not keeping up with them, but I'm out there. I'm yelling. I'm making the most noise,
Yeah.
and hooking up fishing lines on the way through. And
But that's it. That's the whole point.
it's the
Yeah.
fun factor.
The entire reason this thing even exists. And I think this is important, and I think our viewers should understand this, and the people that own the product should understand this. And I do genuinely mean this. It's not a throwaway line. We started four-wheel drive not with the intent of trying to make money. I know this sounds cliche, but there are plenty of companies that are sole purpose is to sell a product for a maximum profit, as much of it as you can to make the maximum amount of money. There's nothing wrong with that. That is just the way the world works. But from time to time, there are products and there are companies that exist, and I think we are one of them, and I genuinely believe we are. It was built around the desire to have more fun. And I think I want people to understand that is its true purpose, is to provide a way to have more fun with less disappointment. Because I used to get disgruntled and disappointed and really like quite emotionally upset because I had an ability that was then taken away from me from my own accidents that I couldn't retain. I couldn't just go and get that back by wishful thinking. I had to come up with a way to overcome my issues to do something I enjoyed. And now it turns out I'm having more fun than I've ever had in the past, in shoulder injury or not.
Yeah.
And I've actually surpassed where I ever thought I could be. But four-wheel drive truly does exist because we wanted to do that, and people wanted what I'd come up with.
Well, that's what I was going to say. The amount of people that, like, right in the very early days before four-wheel drive was a thing and before it even looked like it does now, the amount of people that would come up to me and be like, you were one of them, like, serial one. Like, I need one of those. Make me one of those. I'll buy it off you. And it's like, well, if I'm out here Paul's out there having fun, I'm learning to foil. There's people coming up to us on the beach, like, that just looks like so much fun. Can you make me one? It's the perfect sort of melting pot of all the right reasons to go ahead and do something like this.
And
That's certainly the way I look at it.
And the company, we're just over 2 years old now. We've got 10 staff. It's been a very rapid
Development.
I've had a company before. It's not our first rodeo, but we underestimated the genuine uptake that people had of the product. And I think there's two factors for that. One is it does what it says it does on the tin. It does its job. But two, the people that work within this company actually care. And I think we've deserved the reputation we have for the most part around the world is You email us, we're there. You call us, we're there. If you need help, we will help you as much as we can. We actually care what you think of it, the enjoyment level you get out of it, and we go above and beyond, probably in some cases too much, to make sure to the best of our possible ability that everyone's happy and enjoying the use of the product, because it means a lot to us that it's doing what it did for me initially, you know, and I'm not going to get emotional about it, but for me, I went from like being very upset that I couldn't enjoy my water sports anymore to then almost like overnight, I am now superhuman out in the water, you know, with this little motor.
Yeah,
and right. I can catch anything I want on almost any foil I desire.
Yep.
I'm way out the back. There's no one out there other than other foil drivers. And I'm having more fun than I've ever had. And to me, that was just like, yes.
Yeah.
You know,
Getting away from crowds too. How good is that? Like being able to start in a lineup right out the back and then turn off before the surfers so we don't upset anyone, because that's one of the key things with this product is we don't want people out there upsetting whole heaps of crew that are trying to surf with surfboard in the lineup. That's not what it's about.
I think that's been another reason why the product has actually been successful, is by default, the product lends itself to the best use case is actually not a surfer wave, not in the lineup, not where everyone else is. Why? Because you don't need to be there.
Absolutely.
And every foiler's going to know this. The place you want to be is as far out as you can be to catch the wave as early as you can to have the longest ride. So by pure default, for the most cases and most breaks, you're nowhere near anyone else.
You do not need to
Nor
be
do
there.
you want to be there. And if you are there, you shouldn't be there. And we've got a section in our manual that talks about surf etiquette. You should have respect for those who don't have a motor and the other users of the water. And
which I think a lot of that has gone a lot better than we had originally anticipated or hoped or had feared. When we first started this, it was like, you know, foils are already the new kid on the block. Then you're going to add a motor to it. And that is definitely a thing in some places. There is some negative press, but it really has come down to the people using them and the way that you treat the other people in the water. And we're all just out there trying to have fun. I think foiling's still a very happy and, you know, welcoming community of people. And how foilers are seen in the water varies in lots of different places. But as you said, this is a tool that has allowed people to get further away, especially in the really busy spots like on the east coast of Australia and over in California and all those sort of places where there's hundreds of people in the water on a busy weekend. It's a tool that's allowed you to get further away, which is awesome. But that was such a key thing. Remember when we first started this, of like, we have to be big on this.
As I've explained to a few people who've asked the question, what do other people think? The simplest way I can put it is, why does everyone congregate in the one spot on a surf break? There has to be a reason. It's not because it's a social hangout spot. It's because it seems to be that particular point of a wave section is as it's most energetic. And that's the easiest place to catch the wave. It's by default. Nature's dictated that.
The only place you can almost be within a small area.
So natively, if you don't have something like a foil downwinding kit, you're going to have to gravitate to a zone like that for the same reasons. You take that element away and say, well, it's now pretty much irrelevant. You can pretty much catch almost anything within reason. You don't need to go there.
That's right.
And we've proven that in a lot of our breaks. We're the only ones out the back.
Anywhere along the coast here, especially south, you know you've got anywhere you want to go, you can be there, even if there's a few surfers in particular key spots that are popular spots, you can move away from them. And that's the advantage of it. If you're a respectful individual on the foil drive and you don't want to just hog all the waves and go into the lineup, which makes absolutely no sense to me. And it's probably something that I'm passionate about, as far as you don't want to be upsetting other individuals in the lineup. There's no need for that. And that's the beauty of the product, is it gives even an average surfer an opportunity to have fun on a wave away from the crowd.
Yeah, and also
who's
learn-
looking for that?
And learn in private too.
Yeah,
I was gonna
exactly.
say, the safety side of
You know.
things, you don't just see brand new beginners, because foiling is really hard to learn. Like, especially foil surfing is really hard to learn. Like, hats off to the people that have learnt to foil just proning it, just paddling out in the lineup. Like, hats off to you. That's really hard. But it's also crazy dangerous for the other people around you if it's in a really busy lineup. If you can learn to foil off, these days with the Assist Plus, off on flat water, learn to get your head around foiling, and then jump into the surf and stick way out to the side or way out the back, where it's just nice, clean, gentle rollers, and then learn for that big energy boost when the wave hits your foil, then it's a lot safer way to bring... Foiling's a growing sport. There's so many more people getting into it. And if you can bring people in safely with the help of another tool, that's another benefit that we just... Because, myself, I learned to foil with effectively a foil drive before foil drive existed, but the same sort of thing. I've taught Caitlin.
Have you surfed before though?
I've never surfed in my life.
No. Okay,
Yeah.
so that's an interesting. It's a very interesting
first
point,
water
that isn't
sport.
it? Because
Yeah.
how many people can get up on a surfboard? I'm not saying you got up easily, but it took you time. But
Yeah.
you're now foiling quite proficiently.
Well, you were in
And
the
the-
surf weeks after introduction to
Just
how
2
to
or 3
stand on
flat
board.
water sessions.
That
and then sort
it
of
was
off to
it
the
was
side
pretty
of it, like,
phenomenal.
yeah.
I mean, you're obviously good at other sports you do, so that's also an advantage. But even I've seen some people get onto the foil drive who haven't got a huge amount of coordination,
Yeah.
haven't got great balance, but it gives them the opportunity to feather up and get up
Yeah.
and feel what it's like to be on foil.
For sure.
And the other thing I wanted to point out, which fascinated me, was the first time you two guys came out and did a foil, a downwinder, blew my mind, because
I've
there
been
you
foiling
are,
less than 12 months.
up and going for quite distances with the foil drive.
Yeah.
And I said, how does it feel to downwind at all? And you
I don't
guys
think
were
we
both
realised.
pretty exhilarated by the
Yeah.
experience, weren't you?
Yeah, but I don't think we realised how hard downwinding was and how that was such a pinnacle for a lot of people.
Mm,
And I was less than 12 months into downwinding, starting a business and a brand and building a product and hiring people and sending these things all over the world. So not foiling 3 times a week like most people are when they first get into a new sport, and then to downwind after less than 12 months. I had no idea that
Yeah.
that was ridiculous.
But again, you break it down. Like, I'm quite an analytical person, as you
Yeah.
would know by now.
Oh, really?
To me, it's like the reason it's regarded as such a difficult sport is because it is.
Well, the entry bar is so high.
It's just
Yeah.
a difficult thing to do, to generate enough horsepower with just a human body and a paddle to get to the speed that you need to be at to catch the wave. That doesn't include technique.
No,
Yeah.
it's
And then once you're up, it's still really hard
you-
to read
you
the
just-
bumps, know where to go.
If you can delete that bit, which is the lack of energy, you supply the energy from the kit. It's actually not that hard, but you still need to learn how to
Yeah.
read the swell and do
it's
it.
not
but-
hard to get up. It's just then comes the learning.
Yeah, and I
Yeah,
don't
well,
know of many
both sides,
people that do downwinding because they love to break themselves trying to paddle up onto a wave and just froth the fitness element. I'm sure there's some people out there, good on you, but I'm pretty sure most people are out there because they enjoy riding a wave
for
or
14 kilometres
hundreds
or
of
4
waves
kilometres or anything. Yeah.
it's not even a wave, it's swell.
Yeah.
That's the point, is to enjoy the activity of foiling the swell. So let's just
Yeah.
get straight to the fun bit and get on with it. Is the way my brain.
Yeah.
And like people say,
Approaches
you're
it.
cheating. I go, yeah, but so is a e-bike. So is, there's so many ways that, and I don't,
But it's
I
also
don't
not
get, I don't
cheating
get
if you
offended
can't
by
do
that
it,
because I
because-
think it's just an aid for a broken man.
Well, that's what I was going to say. It's not cheating if your body doesn't allow you to do that anymore. Or
Yeah.
Your lifestyle doesn't allow you to do that anymore. You
Well,
can't
even-
train 3 days a week. or
Even if
whatever.
you are, and we know we've got a lot of customers that are very proficient foilers.
Yeah.
Like
Oh yeah.
on
that's
paper,
true.
they do not need such a product. But again, it doesn't matter if you're proficient, handicapped or not. It's not, in my brain, it's not cheating. It's just using some technology in a good way to enjoy a sport.
Absolutely.
If that's cheating,
Yeah.
well then sign me up, because like no one sat me down and made me do an exam about foiling, so
Yeah.
you can hardly call
Yeah.
it cheating. It is
Yeah.
just, I mean, why do you use a wing?
Absolutely.
What's the point of a wing?
Yeah, yeah.
It's not that you want to take more hardware out there. It's you want to harness some form of other energy
Yep,
Yeah.
absolutely.
to foil. So this is the same thing. It just comes in a little blue box.
And you don't need wind.
Exactly.
Yeah.
Just need the waves.
Nah, it has been really cool to see how many different ways it's been used, and like I think that's blown us away of like
All the fringe
we
cases.
kind of, and even now like, you know, our website and a lot of our videos are all surfing related and all that kind of stuff. But there's like on the Facebook owners group that we've got, there's people using it in all sorts of different ways for all sorts of different things. We never thought of schools using it for winging lessons so that they could go out in lighter wind with smaller wings that are more manageable, or just as a rescue device. There's a lot of wing schools around the place now that are like, come to a winging lesson, you get a helmet, a life jacket, and there's a four-wheel drive on there. You don't have to use it. But if you get blown downwind or you get scared, just pull a controller out and motor back to us. Like, we never thought that'd be a use case, and then that's where, you know, as you said, like the tinkering with the plus and giving it a little bit more power for heavier riders, a bit longer run time, and then the ability, if you put a really big wing on, you can flat water. You're not flat water foiling around for a really long time, depending on weight and all that kind of stuff, but if that's a training tool and a teaching tool for safety, learning faster, progressing quicker, getting more people into the sport, it's pretty cool. Like, a lot of people buying them now to learn to foil and then progress into other things, and then they take it off and go winging and whatever else.
I mean,
like,
even when we go,
pretty cool.
even when we go camping, you know, you got all this stuff. If I want to go flat water foiling around on the river with the kids, it's packs up into nothing.
Yeah.
I can just put it in a box and off I
Super
go.
light.
You know?
Yeah, yeah.
So, and but you're right. It's been fascinating to watch how people have taken the equipment that we've made and used it in all sorts of bizarre scenarios.
Yeah. But I think that's
And,
also, you know, we never realised that at the start, but we also set ourselves up for that too, in that we always thought of it as like, you have whatever foiling gear you have, you do whatever sport you want to do, we'll just add this little bit on to help you, as you said, that Goldilocks of help you when you need it, and then it tries to go away as much as possible when you don't need it. I think that's a pretty cool and different philosophy in terms of, we don't care what foil brands you want to ride. We've got 60, what are we up to now, 65?
67 different
67 different pods for different masts.
Yeah.
We don't care if you want to ride Axis or Armstrong or GoFoil or Lift or F1 or some random brand we've never heard of before because your buddy makes it.
Yeah.
Sure.
And I think that's a good segue into, you know,
boards and styles of foiling and all that.
why do we make the gear the way we do? I'm not going to go into massive detail because I think a lot of it is somewhat IP to us. But the reason is I didn't want to have to pigeonhole people into, well, we've made this tech, but if you want to enjoy it, you got to do it my way. You know, it was amazing to me. It's like there's so many people out there with different foils and different masts and different boards and different this and this and this. It's like the optimum would be if you could use it on anything. And this is in the early days of us brainstorming. It's like, how the hell do we make this thing fit anything?
That's when we thought there was like 20 different foil brands. Like 6 different board makers.
You know?
Yeah, right.
That was
Shock.
67 foils later. Hey, Ralph.
a little
Ralph.
visitor.
Down you get, Ralph.
But that was a goal. But I don't think people fully appreciate just how difficult that is to do when it comes to manufacturing. And this is something that I
And
promised
again,
Ben I
keeping
wouldn't
it
waffle on about. But
And
like,
keeping it as small and lightweight as possible. There's many other ways we could do things that would fit or be better or worse or different, but everything gets bigger. Again, it comes down to that philosophy that you've always had as the main designer. Everything's got to be as small and lightweight as possible. And what is the optimal, and then what do we need to just come out a little bit for to make it work with all these other things, but not everything's a compromise.
and it's a really difficult thing to do. And I want customers to understand this. It's very hard to make something that is highly differential. And what I mean by that is most big E4 brands, they only ever have to make components typically once
Yeah.
because it fits their system. There's nothing wrong with that, and that's a luxury they have. But you try and make something that fits everything now, in the past, and in the future. It's a difficult thing to do.
And foiling's a rapidly evolving and
Yeah,
changing sport. We're still learning so much about how these things work.
And we're committed to constantly making sure that as many masts as that comes out are usable. But it's a very time-consuming and labour-intensive process to do that. There's, as you said, there's good reason there's 10 people working here full-time around the clock, and there's going to be more people next year. We're going to have to hire more staff as things increase. But it's not an easy product to actually manufacture and make. You know, there's a lot of effort, and you
I've
see
heard it so many times, people saying, gee, it seems so simple if you've got a bit of model aircraft, you know, ability. I fly aft RC gliders or something. I could make one of those. It's just a box and, you know, get an X-ski box and throw some batteries and away you go. But I know how much time and effort and energy you guys put into, you know, going through and precisely engineering this stuff. There's a lot of work that goes into it. And I know from, you know, going into your workshop and when you first started, just in that one shed that I've walked in and went, these guys must be making just a couple of these, and I'll have one because I want one. And then you even said at the time, oh yeah, I'll make you one, but I'm not sure if I'm going to be making a lot of these because you weren't interested in. I think you were quite happy to almost go into retirement. Unfortunately, too many of my friends liked them, and too many other people liked them.
You're the
now
guy
look
that
where you're
all
at.
that information online and said, "Go get one of these."
So it's good that you've taken it on and that you're doing that research and that you're including all of the other, you know, all of the other products that are around, all of the other brands, I should say, that are around, you know, and not just being exclusive with one brand.
I've had a few customers call me who are clearly involved with manufacturing. They already own a kit and they just wanted to ring up and say, first of all, I can't believe you're actually doing this. Second of all, I love the gear, but third, it's like
about this years ago.
Like, hats off to you for coming up with the methodology that you have, because they understand that producing something like this in the forever changing landscape of different variants is really difficult to do and keep it cost effective. Like, we have spent a lot of time trying to keep the price obtainable to people. Because we could put this on an ivory tower and make it more expensive, which would reflect the amount of work that goes into it. But that's not achieving its core desire, which is to get people out into the water, into the sport, which is also secondary to anyone that buys a kit from a stockist. You should be aware and grateful to those stockists for stocking it, because they are not making much margin on these things. And it's a credit to them for taking it on too, because they can see the greater benefit of it getting people into the sport, retaining people in the sport, allowing them to have instant gratification out there on their foils. They can have more gear and have more fun. They're taking it on too because they can see the overall benefit. But there has been a lot of effort and energy put into trying to keep this affordable so people can actually obtain it. Whilst micro-manufacturing and highly diverse manufacturing, it's
and
normally
in Australia too. These aren't mass-produced overseas.
It's in your shed here.
Well, now the new facility, but
it's a big shed. But it's every man's dream shed.
She's a big one. But again, I think it's important to at least just air that and say, look, this is a huge labour of love for a lot of people. We're putting a lot of effort and time into making this happen. Any sane operator would never take this on. Because unless you do have that passion pushing it as well, it is not normal to make this work. We have made this thing work in the size, form factor, and whatnot. And I obsess over that. Like that box with the standard battery in it has about 11% air left in it. Like it's actually technically less than that, but we've crammed as much as we can into that thing, and have nearly 2 horsepower output of something that's this round and this big
Yeah.
to push a
And
100
that's where
kilo
that
rider.
whole compromise thing comes in. People are like, oh, I want more battery. And you're like, well, then it's heavier. And then the guys that are surfing don't want it to be so heavy. So we come out with smaller batteries, or for downwinding, or for winging, or whatever. It's constantly trying to evolve and change to what people, how people want to use this thing, whether they want slightly bigger and more powerful. All right, let's maybe look into doing something a bit bigger and more powerful. Sys Plus, bigger battery, high voltage, slightly larger, bigger, and then that has its side benefits of flat water foiling and teaching friends to foil and all that kind of stuff. Or whether it's, you know, the paddle mounts, or, you know, things we're looking into for the future for better usage for guys winging and stuff like that. So I think this is probably a good opportunity to, like, we threw out in the owners group a couple of weeks ago, like we've got the Facebook owners group, threw out to any questions about the video. And I wanted to keep this first podcast video, whatever you want to call it, to more about us in the background of foil drive. And we're planning to do a lot more.
Yeah,
like,
we'll have, I think we should have monthly,
Yeah.
at least monthly
Updates
online updates slash
from Paul and I of what we're up to, where
people
things
can
are
call
going.
in and
Yeah,
Yeah,
and
people want to
chat
know this
like a
stuff.
live
yeah,
podcast.
They
and
definitely
have a
do.
lot more in-depth discussion about all sorts of various aspects of the product and the technology and how it all works and best practices, ways to use it and all that kind of stuff. But I mean, I'll jump through a few of the quick you know, questions that we had thrown out, and I think we'll wrap this one up. But we threw it up, so it's called Foil Drive Owners Group on Facebook.
which has been a fantastic
It's really good.
Facebook group because, and we deliberately do not curate what's on there.
Yeah.
For the large majority of everything, we don't get involved or touch or do anything with it. We let people talk about it for what it is, share ideas, ask questions. It is what it is, and it's open.
But it's so cool. I mean,
yeah, it's
the
just
last,
fantastic to see what people come up with and post. And
what are the
people that are
last
just
few posts? We've got,
having a ball.
you know, questions about, I've noticed this, what's everyone's thoughts? I've got great customer service one. What's set up for subfoil downwinding? I'm 85 kilos, riding Kalama 6.6, all these foils. What's the best thing? There was some posts earlier in the week about like mast position, whether you move it forwards or backwards with a little bit of extra weight in the back of the board. Like, it's so cool, and there's what, 611 members now from all over the world, and there's photos of it being shared out. We do a photo comp and all that kind of stuff. It's a really cool community now to share knowledge of foiling, and then foiling with a foil drive, different ways to use it, all that kind of stuff. But a couple of quick questions to finish off that came in, and as I said, we'll go into more like product ones, I think.
I think we do more
Separate.
specific videos coming
Yeah.
out. We're going to make
Yeah.
an effort to actually stop,
Yeah.
pause.
Yeah.
First
some of these
one,
Take a breath.
yeah,
Breathe for a minute. You guys have been going flat out.
flat out. Mike Zed. So Mike is Jet Surf Nation on YouTube. He does
Really good videos.
really good videos and really good content, but anything like propulsion-wise, e-foils, jet boards,
Anything.
those like scooter things that you scoot around underwater, anything like that. So he's done a really good first view of his experience with the foil drive, which is cool. His question from Mike was EU resellers and when they'll be available. So yeah, it's the EU is obviously massive. There's lots of guys there that foil and would, you know, love to get their hands on foil drive easier and have local support and all that kind of stuff. Yeah, next year.
Next year is a big year. We're going to have dedicated people over there. Distribution network's going to get bigger. More parts, more stock, more holdings of stock. As I said, it's been an insane 2 years of growth.
Mental.
The company's building, getting bigger. There's more people starting next year. There's a bigger facility next year. There's more manufacturing next year. We're really gearing up. We're only just getting started with this. And yes, Europe is on the radar in a big way. We understand it's difficult and expensive to get stuff there, but we have got plans in place to
Yeah.
make that.
Yeah.
Hey.
Ralph, you just really want to be part of this, don't
Ralph, down, buddy. He's the
He's
mascot
he's
has
the
to
shop
leave.
cat
you?
Yep.
Cat.
that keeps everyone on their
So
toes.
Dave Yonts, how do I get a hat? Send us a message, Dave. sure, we can get you a hat. It keeps the sun out of your eyes out in the foil. Or if you're Dominic Hoskins, Dom, you cheeky bugger, any chance of making a headlight attachment? There's a photo of him in the dark. I think he posted a video of that.
Powered off the battery, I think. You know?
Yeah, do some headlight attachments. So I don't know if you need your hat, Dom, but... And then he's followed up with, in all seriousness, I'd love to hear the story of how you two came up with the whole concept, which we pretty well covered. Thought process of turning a fun idea into a proper business. Thanks, mate.
It's probably worth mentioning. We actually had Dominic fly over from Oman and spend a week with us here.
Yeah.
Because he did so many videos and posts so much stuff and genuinely loves the product that much. We're just like, we should probably catch up. Like, none of this is staged. He just did everything on his own volition. We didn't pay him to do anything, nothing like that. And said, why don't you come to Australia and meet us? So he's like, okay. He jumps on an airplane and we had
He had a whirlwind of a trip. We took him to Sydney, met James Casey, and they're just like, hey, what the heck going on? And then flew him over here and had terrible, terrible weather while he was here. Shocking.
It wasn't
Absolutely
great
shocking.
conditions, was it, poor bugger?
But it was cool to have him over here. So, David Fox, another Aussie living in the US. Custom kit, a kit for custom boards, perhaps. So that's a pretty interesting one. There's a lot of people who are now, they're like, you know, I only really foil drive, or only go out foiling with my foil drive. So yeah, we're calling it foil driving, I guess, as a term. Only go out foil driving. Can I get a custom board, or is there manufacturers or shapers doing custom boards? There's a heap of guys that have made their own custom boards, had all sorts of different things. There's heaps of photos and videos and content in the owners group again about all that. But there's a bunch of shapers out there that have done custom boards and whatever else. And there's a couple of pretty big foil brands, I think.
which we're talking to, and they are, long story short, there are boards which will be made sometime next year.
Yeah.
With four-wheel drive in mind, so it just slots in.
Is that putting a box in a certain, like in a different area than the back of the board, or depending?
Yeah, there'll be places to put the box where it's natively recessed, all nice and neat.
Yep.
And off you go. But that's just, again, that's just an add-on to what
We're
we're used to.
watching the battery percentage.
We're getting...
what have we got?
Getting
5%?
That's not wind up from...
Grab one of the full drive batteries and put it in there.
Marketing director here.
Yeah. We got 5% battery on the camera left. So, yeah, long story short, yeah, there's a few board brands that are looking to do custom boards. I think it's key to note that, like, we want to be really good at making...
Why don't we just pause and allow Caitlin to put a new battery in? As we said.
And then we continue.
Pretty casual interview.
We're back.
So we're back.
For the last couple of questions. So, yeah, the long story, there's some boards. Yeah, recessed little boxes, tie-down points to hold the box down, things like that. A lot of people just want a custom board that suits the gear.
Yeah.
Like they're only going out. And I think that's the same for a few other things that, we're not going to get into right now, but, you know, further down the track, there's lots of things that Paul's thought up of, other people around the place have suggested ideas, and we do troll through all the comments and posts and videos and all that are in the owners group of people saying, why don't you try this, or why don't you do that, or I've tried to make this. Other ones were like,
we do listen.
We do listen.
But there's a big difference between making a couple of one-offs and manufacturing something that everyone can have the same.
What about 2 full drives on a Mars?
Frother Phil, shout out Frother.
You'll be watching this. He is a legend.
Yeah, that's exactly. There's so many cool, weird and wacky different things. Like, again, Mike Zed, another one when we add boost mode. I think you had a really good chat to Mike about that, of just like a really quick little 120% or 150% throttle just for 2 seconds, just if you're really lacking behind and need that really quick little boost of high throttle. It's got to be limited, you know, because of the high load and all that kind of stuff. But
Can be done though?
Yes, it can be done. It might be a firmware update, some sort of a software thing. We'll see how we go.
But all that kind of
Needs
stuff
to be
gets thrown in the mix. So
tested and thought about. And we will continuously try to make improvements. And wherever we can, we will make it retrofittable. So if you already own a system, it's not like we're trying to find, ingenious ways to make you buy the next thing all over again. Like if we can make it so that you can retrofit it to your gear, like we came out, I think it's worth bringing up, like the propellers. We started out making our own propellers, the original. Anyone that's got an older kit will know.
I remember those days.
We had the white propellers and then the durable. And most people won't understand this, but they're actually resin. They're grown on a very special laser. I'm not going to get too techy, but it's a special printer. It's not a hobby one. It's a very serious printer. They're actually grown out of a vat of goo. Looks like something out of a science fiction movie. And why is that? Well, it's impossible to go straight to market with an affordable system if everything has to be bought in quantities of tens of thousands for this and tens of thousands of that, and huge injection molding costs here and So we had to come up with ingenious and tricky ways to try and get straight to affordability without having to rely on selling 50,000 units. And we made those propellers, and people still use them to this day. But then we wanted that next performance jump, which is that's Mike.
That's Mike.
We wanted that performance increase without having to, reinvent the wheel, and we went to the metal propellers. And most people, those propellers are made on a 5-axis CNC machine overseas. It's a $1.2 million machine to make those propellers. And again, this is some of those people that are in manufacturing that reach out to us and say, I don't know how you're doing it, but that's a precision machined piece of hardware. That's out of a solid block of aluminium, every single one of those blades.
Right, yeah.
Then it's anodized, beautifully machined, and for the price point they're at, it's actually difficult to do that. But that gave us that extra 15%, out of the same system. We could go to a thinner material, cut through the water more efficiently and that sort of stuff.
Plus they last forever.
They do.
Only props I haven't been able to break.
But, we went to a lot of effort to make that happen.
And I think that, the key takeaway from that little bit, I think, is just that we're not trying to make all these little upgrades to keep people buying more and more stuff. It is an evolving sport, it is evolving technology, and it is an evolving product and brand as well. Like, we're always just going for little improvements, and a lot of them are based on comments and feedback from the community of guys that use this thing and say, hey, I reckon you were the first person to put the paddle mount on top right in the early days. Because I remember yourself, Scotty, Trav, were all running it like lower hand, and that's where it was originally intended for. And then I was always like, I've got to get it on the top here somewhere. And then you one day called me and was like, yeah, put it this way with it in that way. And then if we made the mount slightly different, then you could use your thumb. And it's all user feedback. And with, over 1,000 of these things out in the water now, it's pretty cool having this massive pool of people all giving us input, good, bad, indifferent, and it all builds together, and we're listening to all this stuff so that we can change and mould and grow with the sport and the different directions, and all these different facets of foiling need slightly different things too. So it's been a pretty challenging, super fun experience the last couple of years.
And
but
a hell of a time to start a business. COVID kicked off.
Right in the middle of COVID.
Everything you could sort of
the
tick
world's
against
biggest container
it's
ships
succeeding.
getting stuck in canals and global shipping stops. Ports are closing down.
Silicon chip shortages, you name it.
Yeah, it didn't.
Yeah.
It's been an interesting forte into.
Yeah. So many people emailed or called me and was like, oh, you're playing it really smart with the have scarcity of stock, and people really want them if they're not in stock and all that. It's like we're struggling to get parts at some points in those early days.
In the early days, we're struggling to get parts. Now, the demand is...
The demand is gone nuts, but it's been such a cool journey. It's been awesome to have you along for the ride as well.
Well, you started out as a customer, one of our best mates. So.
Well, it's been just such a great ride going from that original concept to where we are now, and you guys, I should say you guys, because I'm not involved in the company other than I love riding the product, and where it'll go from here. I'm just excited to see what other developments will be coming along with four drive as well. So it's just been the fun factor has just increased with my riding, and just the others that have got involved with it that want to try other aspects of the sport now.
Yeah.
So it's been brilliant. So I'm just grateful you guys came along. It was ticking over in my brain, how can I do this? I've done a little bit of model RC and some plane flying and that, and mate and I sort of went, oh, if we could just do this. Oh, forget it. Like, I saw what you guys went through. I am not interested in manufacturing anything, but it's just been great to see you guys grow and to see, you know, I know people I speak to and people I was speaking to at Marimbula, like the buzz that's around about the product, the customer service, which doesn't exist with most products now. You know, it's just, you don't get that anymore. There is...
Which was a comment I was going to say earlier when we were talking about like customer support and stuff. I think that's really stemmed again, like there's probably a common theme here. Paul and I's background and our experience, we're the kind of guys that buy things as soon as we see them. We're like, that is cool. I've got to have that. Some random company we've never heard of in, I don't know, anywhere. Czech Republic or somewhere completely random, especially in the RC, like the high-end RC plane stuff and the high-end drones. A lot of the drones we're playing with are out of Germany and all that kind of stuff. We're early adopters of technology and early adopters of cool new stuff and tech and toys.
Well, we've got
that background.
Four printers in this business, different models of different types. They're the first to ever be purchased in Australia by a civilian.
So I think that sort of background of us and the kind of people we are when we buy new toys and stuff that we're interested in, you get all sorts of support and levels of back-end support when you're buying new things. And that was a big thing that we decided early on, as you said before, you know, probably an hour ago now, I don't know, about like, we do care and we do want our people who work for us, who work for our customers to care. We just want to get you back in the water. If you problems, little problems, big problems, doesn't matter. We just want to get you back in the water and having fun. I think that's also, to add some context, is just because we know what it's like to be on the other side of the fence, because we buy new technology.
Yeah, and I think
that's what we do.
This is actually a very good segue to me to put this in here. If you do have a problem or there's any small issue or even a big issue, can I please ask the general public to just be kind and nice, because my staff or our staff on the other end of the email are humans. They have feelings, they're lovely people, and they will do their best to help. But you don't need to come on the offensive. Like, and I get it why people do. Like, I have problems with stuff I buy, and I shouldn't, but I know subconsciously I'm like, oh God, here we go. I'm going to have to go through an entire circus of rigmarole and stuffing around to get any support. And that's unfortunately a lot of people's experiences these days.
Yeah, it is.
You won't go through that. So treat our staff with some respect and just be kind, because you'll get in return the same thing.
And again, have a look through the owners group. There's little issues and big issues and all sorts in there, and I think it's testament to our staff and our support crew and all the guys behind the scene, which you'll never see in front of a camera because they don't like the camera, or that's, you know, not their, that's what they do, is all the behind the scenes stuff that goes unnoticed, that our customers jump to the support of us and our support to say, stop whinging on here, just go email them, they'll sort you out. Like, they'll send you new bits, or they'll just do whatever they've got to do to get back in the water. Like, I think, that group is such a, and as you said before, we try really hard not to moderate it. We try really hard to just let it be, let the customers and other people and all the frothers get in and have their input. We'll add our bit in to add, you know, the true context or whatever. But it's a pretty cool place to see what it's like if you're wondering about four-wheel drive or getting one, or the support you'll receive afterwards and all that kind of stuff. But it's a good point. It's
be kind.
Absolutely.
Have
Not
fun.
hard to do. Yeah, exactly.
Catch more waves.
Smile.
Get foil-brained. Get your mates foil-brained. It's cool. It's such a cool place to be at the moment.
Yeah,
it's awesome.
It's great.
So, thank you so much, Sykesy, for joining us.
Great being a part of it, guys.
I'd love to hear more about this bloody air chair and sinking yourself off KI.
Maybe I'll bring it on and show you what it used to look like.
We'll need a bigger foil drive.
You're going to need a very powerful motor to get that thing going, I tell you.
Maybe you have 4
car battery and a 150 horsepower outboard motor.
It's been great, and
great
as we
ride.
said, we'll We'll do some more in-depth ones. We want to do more frequent ones. We'll probably, do some live chats, I reckon, in the four-wheel drive owners group. Have Paul and I, or just Paul, or just me, or whatever, jump in there, try and do it once a month. If you guys want to join in, leave some comments, leave some questions for us, send us an email, anything you want to hear about, or anything like that. We'll endeavour to do this more often, because the first one in 2 years in is probably a bit of a stretch.
Yeah, bit overdue, but
we'll do it more often. So,
yeah.
Thank you so much as always for the support. It's we wouldn't be sitting here drinking beer, talking four-wheel drive if you guys didn't believe in us and show that support. So, cheers, guys.
Cheers.
Thank you very much.
Well done, guys.